We want to go now to the former Fed chairwoman and new Treasury Secretary Janet Yellen. She joins us in Washington. Good morning to you, Madam Secretary.
Good morning, and thank you so much for having me.
You know, the U.S. is still 10 million jobs short of where we were before this pandemic. Many people have stopped looking for work. Is the jobs market stalling?
Well, I'm afraid that the job market is stalling. We saw that in Friday's employment report. Just 6,000 private sector jobs created, 49,000 overall, and that's after a month in which we actually saw a job loss. So, yeah, we have 10 million people unemployed, 4 million have dropped out of the labor market, and another 2 million are working part-time who really would like full-time work. So we're in a deep hole with respect to the job market and a long way to dig out.
Specifically, the unemployment rate for men and women is relatively similar, but the president's economic advisor, Jared Bernstein, said this past week the number of women who've left the workforce is of great concern and unusual in a recession. What's driving that, and how do you get women back into the workforce?
Well, you know, women really are, many face just an impossible situation in which they have children they have to take care of who aren't in school and would be facing increasing demands on the job. And many, over 2 million, have dropped out of the labor force because it's so hard to manage that conflict. And the package, the American Rescue Package that President Biden has proposed really addresses the problems that women face. It places huge emphasis on getting our schools open safely, getting children back into school, providing paid family and medical leave during this crisis so that women don't have to leave their jobs when they're faced with health issues or family issues that they have to address. There's emphasis on providing more child care and payments, tax credits expanded for children to help families address these needs. And I think this is really necessary to get women back to work. They've faced a disproportionate burden because of this crisis, especially low-wage women and women of color.
Those emergency paid leave provisions would expire in September. During your confirmation hearings, you talked about the U.S. needing to make these more permanent, essentially, to stay competitive with the rest of the developed world. Is getting the U.S. to adopt a legal mandate for expanded paid leave and child care your ultimate goal?
Well, it's certainly something that President Biden is interested in. And, you know, the current package that he's proposed, the American Rescue Package, is intended to deal with the immediate crisis, the economic crisis and the healthcare crisis. But beyond that, he looks forward to proposing ideas to address long-standing challenges that our economy has faced.
That sounds like a yes in the future. Let's talk about now. In this current rescue package, what should determine who is eligible for a stimulus check? Should it be your 2019 income level or your unemployment status?
Well, you know, President Biden wants to make sure that the payments that he's proposed, $1,400 payments to make good on the total $2,000 pledge, goes to families that really need it, that are struggling. And, of course, it shouldn't go to very well-off families that don't need the funds and haven't been hard hit by the crisis. So he's discussing the appropriate cutoffs and phase-ins with members of Congress and is open to negotiating on those. But there are a lot of families that are struggling with lower income and need those payments.
You know, sending people checks in the mail, though, the criticism is that this is more about politics than economics. Some of your fellow economists have been very critical. Stanford's John Cogan claims 70% of stimulus payments from last year were either saved or used to pay debt. Mark Zandi of Moody's, who the president often references, said stimulus checks are not the most effective type of support and said much of it goes to households that don't need the funds. Given that, how do you justify writing these checks?
Well, it has to go to people and households that do need the money, and those are lower income households. And we need to make sure that the cutoffs are appropriate so that households that are doing really well maybe have seen their stock portfolios rise and make a lot of income and haven't lost their jobs. Those households shouldn't be getting it.
What's your floor and ceiling on that?
There is a lot more targeted relief also. Well, I don't have specifics for you today. These are matters that President Biden is discussing with members of Congress and is open to reviewing what's appropriate, but he is committed to providing the $1,400 payments to those who qualify.
When there's no jobs creation program in here, the president says he wants that massive infrastructure bill to be next. And job creation is what we need to see. Don't you risk spending your political capital now when you need to create jobs in this next bill?
Well, there will be another bill that addresses job creation through infrastructure development, through investment in people, in education and training, addresses climate change, improves the competitiveness of our economy, and is designed to create good jobs with good pay that involve careers for people. But right now, this package will do a huge amount to create jobs. The spending it will generate is going to lead to demand for workers, help put people back to work, especially when we can get vaccinations and the public health situation to the point where the economy can begin to open up again.
Before I let you go, there's been some wild swings in the price of GameStop. Are markets functioning properly?
We really need to look in detail to understand what happened in those stocks over the last couple of weeks. I would say that the core infrastructure of the markets, the plumbing, ability to trade, clearance, settlement, those infrastructures performed well. But we need to make sure that investors are adequately protected, that they understand the risks, and that we have fair and efficient markets. And we'll be looking into all of that.
Madam Secretary, thank you for your time.